supporting you in your dog parenting journey. The Dynamic Dog Owner with Debbie Potter. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Dynamic Dog Owner, the podcast designed to support you, the dog parent, in your dog parenting journey. Today we are joined by Claire, who runs Claire's Comfy Canines, and she's also going to tell us about her newer business as well as we go through. So Claire, welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Really nice of you guys to join us. And obviously it'd be really nice to find out a little bit more about daycare and boarding settings, because obviously that's what your expertise is. So first of all, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about who you are, your history, where you started and how Claire's Canines evolved?
Sure, okay. So I started the business 15 years ago. I started it simply because I had a dog who I could not leave when I went to work, not because she had anxiety issues, but I had anxiety issues. And I went looking for a dog walker and decided that I didn't trust any of them, and I could do it better myself. That's not necessarily a judgment on them. It's simply my anxiety over leaving my precious dog. She was also quite a complex dog. She was an English Bull Terrier, and unless you know that particular type of breed, then it's quite hard for people to really connect with them and keep them safe. So I left my really well-paid job that I was very good at in recruitment, where I was very much a grown-up, and went, oh, I'm just going to go and be a dog walker. And there you go. I'd never ever worked with dogs. My mum was a dog groomer, had bred dogs my whole life, had dogs my whole life, but it always felt like this was the journey I was going to go on. And at the time, my selling point to potential customers was, you will meet other people with more experience than me, but you won't meet anyone you can trust any more than me. I am the most trustworthy person. I won't take any risks with your dogs. I'm not going to lose your keys or give them to anybody that shouldn't have them. And thank God it worked. So that was my USP, and it really worked. And within the sort of first, I'd say 12 to 15 months, I really didn't enjoy working like walking dogs in public spaces.
Yeah.
There were so many more dog walkers than I had realised, and with that came lots of groups of dogs, and it just didn't feel right for me. And trying to find places that were nobody walking the dogs, then getting them out of the van wasn't particularly safe. So it was, it just wasn't really ticking my boxes. Fair. And the kind of the doggy daycare idea started, and then we moved to the site we are now 13 years ago. We've had, along the way, we've had a shop, we've had a dog grooming salon, we've had lots of pregnancies, human, not dog, and so the business has had to evolve because I've had my own family since it started, and we've twice won the top doggy daycare in the UK. We were runners up before that for 4 consecutive years. We have also many other accolades, including micro business, local, regional, national awards, where we've come within, like the final 3. We always strive to be the best, which meant I was able to go and consult with DEFRA back in 2018 when they started to review the licensing guidelines for the Animal Welfare Act, or animal activities. So I've been really lucky and privileged to be able to kind of drive standards within the sector, and for me that's got to be the most important thing. And then last year, whether or not it's a good thing, time will tell, but I think I uttered the words, I'm a bit bored. And
deadly words, those.
Never saying it ever again. And I started and launched Hunters, which is a combination of businesses. So it's primarily it was to build a network of licensed and trained home boarders to help dog owners find accessible, safe places for their dogs that they know they can, our brand is really trusted, and this is off the back of that. But also taking on board my sort of 15 years of knowledge and sharing that to other pet professionals. So one of our recent clients has been a dog trainer for many years, and was looking at expanding what she does. And we went and reviewed that with her, looked at her business plan, produced a report, and gave her a really unbiased review of what she's looking to do, and helped her make a decision, one way or the other. And then we can kind of be there to hold her hand if she needs it, or any training that she'll need. So ultimately, Hunters is about educating pet professionals and then helping dog owners find places for their dogs.
Amazing.
And that's it.
It's a good thing to have that, because as you say, it's a minefield now. I was only having the conversation with somebody the other day that's 10 years ago, 20 years ago, dog walkers, dog boarding, doggy daycare, what was it? It wasn't a thing. Now it is so needed, so popular, and naturally standards, rules, regulations. It's good that you're sort of flying that kite mark to make sure that dogs are getting the best, and owners alike, are getting the best care and get best service possible.
That's the aim. It's a big job.
A lot of responsibility. So obviously your background sounds a little bit similar to mine, really, starting off as a dog walker and going, I need more than this. That's exactly how we started.
Okay.
10, 11 years ago,
Right.
being a dog walker, and after a very short period of time going, nah, need more than this.
Yeah.
So I can see the need for, secure places for dogs. Absolutely. And daycare, I imagine, you may not agree, I imagine daycare is a little bit less stressful in some ways than walking in public spaces. In other ways, I'm sure it's a lot more stressful.
No, I think it takes away the external problems. So you don't have any dog walkers, runners, cyclists, horses, cows, cars, groups of dogs. Every dog is assessed. Every dog comes here, is sociable, and likes being around other dogs. And so it does. I mean, the stress comes because the business is quite large now, and we have a team of 10 and 9. And so that's a different stress, though. The dogs are good.
yeah. It's a business owner stress rather than stress in actually in taking out your job. So what would you say makes your daycare different to others? What, obviously you said you've won loads of awards, which is amazing. Why? What makes yours so different? What do you do differently?
So I'd say our headliner would be that we're dog led. And what I mean by that is that the team here are very aware of the needs of the dog. So, a lot of dog, every dog has their own needs, whether it's to do with their innate, needs for their breed, or their background, or their life stage, or, illness. Every dog is so different. And although we can't offer one-to-one, we are very aware that we have 200 dogs here every week, and we know all of them. And we know if Bob's mum's having a baby, or Teddy's parents are having a house refurbishment, because all those things start to really upset the dog. They're not sleeping, they're overtired, or there's strangers coming in the house and they're overwhelmed. And so when a dog comes in and they're out of character, we know, and we can then feed that back and have a very open relationship with the owners, about that. And I also, right from the beginning of running the business, and it's one of the things I talk to all the dog professionals about that I work with, is you have to put the dog first. And although financially, as a business, it will hurt if a dog has to leave, the success will come. If you put the dog first, the success will come. And I think that really shines through for us when people come and look around, that, the priority is the dog, not the money. And we won't take money off somebody if their dog isn't happy and we're not giving them what they need. So we very much take the blame. If a dog is here and they're not settling because they're starting to react to things, or they're getting quite barky, or they're shutting down, we take that responsibility, and we take it as it's our setting isn't right for that dog, as opposed to that dog isn't right for our setting. So it's very much kind of on us to say, okay, we've done all these things, those things that we have access to aren't working, and so we can't give your dog what they need. And I think that, for me, without doubt, is very much the kind of the top of what we do, and puts us above a lot of other places.
Definitely. And it's not, there's different settings, aren't there? I mean, how many, you just said 200 dogs a week, which is incredible. How many do you have per day?
60, just under 60 a day.
Gosh. And obviously for some dogs, that's just not the right setting. They're just not going to get on with it.
No.
Others would prefer a smaller setting.
Yeah.
And it's very much, I suppose, dependent on the setting, the venue, the other dogs in the group.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
a lot of factors I think that maybe aren't considered by the
No.
general public of going, I just send my dog to daycare. There's
Yeah.
an awful lot of factors to be considered to make sure that that setting is right for the dog.
Absolutely. And I think that's also, part of our job here is to educate owners as well. So if somebody rings up, there'll be a whole host of questions. So it's a case of, okay, I've got a 12-week-old Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Brilliant. Perfect. We know that 9 times out of 10, that dog is going to come here and love it. Okay. And then someone rings up with an 18-month-old, 2-year-old cockapoo with anxiety issues who loves other dogs. And I'm like, what does he though? Really?
Yeah.
Does he? Because when he's in the park and you see him playing with other dogs, that's not the same as here. So we use the analogy, it's like humans, if you're in the pub and you love being around a big group of people and you're really enjoying that and that's great for you, but another person might want to sit at the bar on their own and just
Yeah.
have their own company. And dogs are no different. In daycare, again, if you're in daycare and you fall out with another dog over, you have a little bit of a discussion about a toy, you're going to
Yeah.
carry that problem with you all day, and you've got to be able to get rid of that problem to then move on and have fun. Some dogs can't do that. So
Yeah.
some dogs are quite happy to go, oh, you keep the toy, I don't care, have a shake off and move on. Other dogs
Yeah.
are going to carry that problem all day and get more and more and more and more wound up. And that isn't suitable for daycare.
Sure.
And it's a
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
hard battle. And that can change. They could start as a puppy.
Mhm.
And as a puppy, they're great. And they go through adolescence and something happens, during adolescence that changes them. I mean, it doesn't stop. The reviewing of the dogs doesn't stop all the way through their time here.
Yeah.
It
And
has
obviously, as
to
you said,
be.
that's the important thing because they do change
Yeah.
from day to day, from what's going on in family life to age to, health. So many things are
Yeah.
going to change in that period of time. So it's, as you say, it's not just a, yep, you're in and that's fine.
No.
It might need to change. So what kind of things do you look for, or what should, obviously, you look at certain traits that are going to get on well in your environment. What kind of things do you look out for? Are there any things that you go, oh, I don't, these things we ask for, these things we don't ask for? A dog with XYZ isn't going to get on.
Yeah.
Are there any sort of particular things that sort of stand out?
So, well, I can talk about like my experiences,
Yeah,
okay?
of
And so this
course.
is from my perspective. So in our setting, we don't separate the dogs.
Okay.
So there are other settings that might have a toy town or a large breeder or something like. We don't do that. We don't do that at all. So the only difference that we have is we take puppies and we have a puppy crush, but it's more about having an extra person that oversees their day and make sure they don't get too much, exercise, they get enough rest
Sure.
and so on. So first of all, you have to look at our setting and go, right, all these dogs are together all day. So in that case, dogs that we find dogs that might be really super intelligent working breeds. So we
Hmm.
don't often take herding breeds
Fair.
because we can't necessarily meet their needs. And if you suddenly have a group of dogs that wants to have a little bit of a tear up around the paddock, the herding breed's going to chase them and nip the back of their legs, and and
Yeah.
that's their innate instinct, and that's fine. But you can't do that here. That's going to upset
No.
people.
Yeah.
Um,
Fair.
so there's that. We then look at, again, super intelligent, kind of working breeds like Weimaraners, Vizslas. We can't meet their needs from an intellectual perspective. And
Hmm.
then what you get is a dog that's really bored, really frustrated, and starts to behave like an really bad choices, really bad choices. So we really,
Yeah.
generally speaking, they're the kinds of dogs that are on the it's not going to work list. Again, dogs that get really overstimulated really quickly. We
Hmm.
find here terriers get really overstimulated really quickly. They hold a grudge. They can't move on. So, they're just going to be cross all day if they get upset in the morning. And then that again makes for a very snappy, a dog that won't retract, a dog that's gonna, it's okay to tell a dog off, but you've got to be able to get over it. And we
Yeah.
find that they struggle. We have the odd terrier, but they're always on a very, very much a scaled down day, lots of sleep, lots of decompression. And then the dogs that really do work, ideally they're going to come as a puppy, they're going to come when they're literally out of their second set of vaccinations. The companion breeds, the Labradors, but I feel like they've changed a bit, but that's a bit of another
You wouldn't
conversation.
want my Labrador, yeah.
And that, and so it's like, a show lab, but great. Some spaniels, but again, it's quite a holistic view. So if somebody, if you've got a rescue dog, that's okay too, but we ask they've been in their new home for 6 months, so the
Fair.
owners can get to know them, get the dogs to really settle
Mhm.
in, and then see the true, the kind of true characteristics. It's a constant evolving beast, really. And it also depends on, let's say we get an inquiry for, I don't know, a 6 months old Labrador, and we've got loads of other adolescent Labradors on the same day. Well, we're not taking that this week, like that you have to look at the day and go, we've already got a load of adolescents that day, that's just going to fuel the fire.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot.
I imagine just the logistical planning
Yeah.
is probably more challenging than looking after the dogs.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, and imagine they all arrive in the morning between 7:30 and 9 o'clock. So that's
Gosh.
intense. Yeah.
So do people, I presume like for you, maybe people have to get booked in quite quickly. Do you have like set days? Can people be ad hoc? How much flexibility do you have?
So I think the biggest frustration with our service is lack of flexibility. So, and the reason we don't offer the flexibility in terms of the kind of ad hoc, let's say,
Hmm.
or different days every week is because we have a really high staff ratio here. And in order to fund that, I have to make sure we have a set number of dogs here every day.
Yeah.
So every dog has to come one day a week minimum.
Okay.
And then let's say they have a Wednesday, but next week they need a Friday or they want an extra day. We will accommodate it where we can, but we are governed by our license numbers.
Of
So,
course.
that's always there, in the front of our mind.
Mm. And I suppose it depends what other dogs you've got in as to whether the group dynamics would work on that
Yeah, I
day.
mean, we try to really, if we've got a dog that doesn't get on with another dog, or we don't really want that, because that's not really how it can work. So yes, if we've suddenly got a day that's really busy with puppies and another puppy wants to come for an extra day, if we've got a staff member on holiday, we'd be like, no, probably not.
Yeah.
So mainly no, mainly it's we have a space, we'll take the dog. But occasionally there is the odd variation, but mainly if we've got a space and someone books it, then they can have it.
And I imagine it's I imagine it's hard for the dogs who have come in later. As you say, puppies, they just get used to this, don't they?
Yeah, it's
It's
not
just
normal for
normal.
them.
This is
Yeah,
my life. This is where I go once a week.
yeah,
The more they come, that regular sort of interaction each week just means it keeps fresh in their mind. If
yeah.
they've got a session and they don't come for another month, then they've always got to readjust to it each time as well, which obviously
Yeah.
isn't going to help you guys. Do you follow
No,
a
that's it. No, that
do
was
you
just going to
follow
agree.
a set kind of regime each day? Is there a set pattern of what happens, like what's called like a timetable?
Yeah,
Or I
we
imagine there
do.
has to be to make it run smoothly.
Yeah, we are really structured. We always have been. So even on our website, we have posted on there, this is our routine and it doesn't change. So your dog has to be here by 9:30 in the morning. If it isn't, we can't accommodate it because playtime is from 9 till 10:30. And then unless they're puppy, so the puppies, they are a bit different. So, and then lunchtime is from kind of 10:30 till 12, and then nap time is until 1:15. So yeah, the whole day is completely structured. So we shut reception from 9:30 till 4 unless somebody's coming to have a look around. There's no visitors, no drop-offs. And then my team haven't got to think about humans. They can just get
Yeah.
on with focusing on the dogs, and that's what we get paid for. So again, that can come across as inflexible, but the last 15 years has taught us that if we're trying to put the dogs first, then
Yeah.
that is what that does, really.
Absolutely. And actually it means you can concentrate on the dogs, which
Yeah,
is what people are paying you to do.
yeah, 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 exactly.
Now you mentioned nap time there.
Hmm.
Do all of the dogs nap and have a sleep at the same time?
Yeah, we've got loads of videos of the dogs. So what
How
we're
do you
looking
achieve
for,
that?
that's the secret that no one's allowed to know because no one else can do it.
Ooh.
So
I was going to say, it
it's
sounds like an impossible, like you must have like some magic going on.
I would say that the routine is a big part of the magic. So if the dogs know that what's expected of them every day at the same time,
Hmm.
it really helps them to, to
Sure.
kind of understand, okay, I've had my playtime. There's no kind of anxiety over what's happening next, because
Yeah,
they've had their
fair.
lunch, they've had a play, and they've had a wee, and now they sleep. And so what we're looking for is, we're not necessarily looking for full out sleep. Some dogs will get to that point, but what we're looking for is just chill time. Let's just lights out, music on, no external kind of things that are going to wind them up. And just give them the best opportunity to do that. So if it's cold outside, making it warm. If it's warm outside, making it cool. So just taking away any of the stimulus, and then lots of quiet, and making sure that the team are training the dogs in the correct way to really enjoy that nap time. So if a dog needs, we've got slings for the babies if they need them. We've got sofas, chairs, raised
Nice.
beds, vet beds, duvet beds. They've got so much choice. We've got shelves. A couple of them like to go in the shelves in a den. We've got beds
Oh, I
under
love it.
counters. So and mainly you'll find the same dog in the same place every day.
Yeah, they probably find their comfy spot.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it is time, and it is patience. And we do quite a lot of Facebook videos to show the dog sleeping, because whenever I see other settings, quite often they'll be like, oh, the dogs are sleeping and they're all in crates, which is fine, but it's not the same thing.
No, no, definitely not.
No.
And I suppose, if you've established that routine with the more experienced people who come to you, like the dogs, when the new ones come in, they're like, oh, well, if everyone else is sleeping, I'll just join in.
Exactly. And although, obviously the puppies will struggle a bit in the beginning, we give them a lot of extra time, they get a lot of extra sleep anyway. So we can sometimes we'll separate some of the puppies in the beginning, just put them in different route. We have inside, we can separate the dogs into a selection of different areas, just with
Okay.
different stair gates. So if we don't want puppies jumping all over the older dogs when they're trying to sleep. And
Fair.
so we might put them in the office or in the kitchen, or whatever, just to give them a little bit of a bit of a leg up, let's say, to help them go to
Yeah.
sleep.
It sounds like, obviously the last, you say, 15 years have been well researched and experienced in finding that absolute optimum way of running things to make sure that everyone's happy, successful, and that all the dogs succeed, which is really nice to hear that you've continued to strive for that
Yeah.
sort of equilibrium between everybody.
And I think it changes as well, because science is changing all the time with dogs.
Mm,
And I'm not a dog trainer, don't ever suggest that I am. But one of my general manager is a level 4 qualified dog trainer. I'm a level 3 qualified in home boarding and daycare. So we're really, it's really important to us that we keep current. And
mhm.
all of my team have continuous professional development trackers, so they're also always learning. And I think it's really important as a business, if you want to set standards and be the best, you have to be current. And it's really important
Yeah.
that we follow people and we learn from them, and every day is a school day, because otherwise we can't improve and we can't give the best service. So for us, that kind of education's really drilled into the whole company and the whole team, to then share that. If somebody's learned, I know they might go and do I don't know, like a podcast on, I don't know, I'm making it up, enrichment, or loose lead walking, whatever, like, and then we'll talk about it and share it and learn it and use it in our day.
Nice. And then everyone's growing as well, aren't they? It's not
Yeah.
just, the whole team are growing and learning
Yeah.
more all the time, which can only benefit the dogs.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
So when it comes to, obviously, I imagine in your area, so Burnham, everyone's like, I want to go there.
Yeah.
um, what, obviously not everybody can, unfortunately. So what should other people be looking for if you are looking at a daycare setting?
Yeah.
What are the things that people should be looking out for to make sure they're sending their dog to the best place? And are there any sort of red flags that you would say those things are the ones you should maybe look at somewhere else?
So the easiest thing to do, so to start with, is to go onto your local council's website,
Hmm.
look at the licensing section, and they have a list of all animal businesses and animal activities that are licensed. So whether they are a kennels, a cattery, an equestrian centre, a daycare, a home boarder. So the first place to start is your local council. Facebook seems like a good place, but on Facebook and social media, you know, we have lots of people being very helpful who are not professionals and actually haven't necessarily had a bad experience yet. Doesn't mean it's the right decision, you know. So there's a lot of platforms out there as well, like Rover and Porshake, which are really brilliant advertising platforms, but nothing on them has been verified or checked. So you, by all means, use all of these things and then go to your local council's website and look at the licensing, look at the list of places that are licensed. Or if you don't want to do that, take your friend's suggestion, ring them up and ask to see their license. So the first thing is anybody, so let's imagine that your dog breeder says to you, when you go on holiday, I'll look after Bob for you. That's absolutely fine. Oh, that's brilliant. You know, everyone wants to send their dog back to their dog breeder. Can I see a license, please? And she may have a license for breeding or may not, maybe a hobby breeder. She still needs a license for boarding. And the reason for that is that the license is basically defined by a business. So if you are a dog walker and you then do a bit of boarding on the side, you are a business, you're earning over £1,000 a year, you need a license. Even if you take one dog at a time or you take one dog over the summer, if your entire business is earning more than £1,000 a year, you are deemed as a business by the HMRC and you need a license for doing home boarding. So do not let anyone pull the wool over your eyes. That's the first thing. And the amount of times I hear from people, oh, I just do it as a hobby, or oh, it's okay because my mum's friend's sister, you know, she just has some of the neighbours' dogs. Don't pay her a lot, bit of cash. It's not okay. And the reason for that, for me, the main reason is if somebody has decided to look after your dog and they haven't bothered to get a license, well, then what else are they compromising on and what are they hiding? So the license, as part of your license condition, has to be visible on the wall in the premises. So if it's someone's home or if it's somebody's commercial setting, it's there straight away as you walk through the door. So that's a really simple, that's the only thing you do. That's a really simple thing to do. So then you have to look at the setting. So is it a commercial setting or is it a home setting? And they are two different things. So commercial is like us. So we're a commercial doggy daycare. We're big. We're like, you know, we're like the big I don't know how to describe, like nurseries where they've got 3 different rooms of kids in them, and you know it's really busy, really noisy. But we're here 50 weeks of the year or 51 weeks of the year. You know, we don't close, we don't go on holiday, and so that's, you know, that's great. Brilliant. And then the home boarding is exactly that. It's somebody's home and they may have a license for 4 dogs, but you know, the good side about that is it's their home and it's smaller and it really suits dogs who are maybe overstimulated easily or not suitable for a bigger setting. But the downsides with a home boarding setting is that they may have other dogs there or other pets, cats, children. So they, you know, they both kind of have their pros and cons. And once you've checked the license, you'll know that they've got things like insurance, they've been risk assessed, they're first aid trained, they've got some level of basic training, and in theory they should have a very clean setting. So the license kind of is your first step into, we know that they have, you know, they're under a certain umbrella and you should never deviate from that. And
they've gone to the effort of getting it, you know, they're clearly going at it with a sort of business professional, let's tick all the boxes approach, which as you say means hopefully everything else they've followed through with, rather than just going, oh, I think I'll just look after a dog.
Yeah, and actually, you know, I could talk all day about the horror stories that we have heard here, you know, from people that have sent their dogs from something they've been recommended on Facebook because they didn't want to spend lots of money, or they didn't have time, they left it too late, they had a wedding or a surprise holiday. And actually, what we've also found out from that is quite often it's not even much cheaper. It's not. You assume it's going to be more expensive, but it's not. So once you've looked at the license, you'll see there's a star rating. Star rating is rated 1 to 5. And in all honesty, I don't hold a lot of value of the star rating. So we do have a 5-star license. We do. We absolutely have the best you can have. You know, we've been doing it a long time. We're deemed as low risk. So a higher star rating does deem low risk. However, the councils are really inconsistent.
So from
Right.
one council to another, and we've seen this through the Hunters business, through our members and through different councils and their approach. Also, the star rating doesn't really drill down on things that talk about ratio, so that you have to have a 1 in 8 ratio as one of your potential options to have a low risk high star rating, but it's one of the options. One of the options is to make sure, I think it's temperature controlled or something. It's a very strange rated system. So I would say once you've found someone with a license, you're going to see the star rating on their license, but I wouldn't be deterred by someone that had a 1-star license. Sure. Because we had our 5-star license threatened to take it off us because they came and did a spot check and they didn't find enough water bowls. But we had multiple water bowls in every area, and we're like, there wasn't even any dogs inside. They were being like, it was like, really? And they threatened to take it from 5 to 1 for that thing. And I'm like,
oh wow,
actually,
that's crazy.
Oh yeah, it was massive. And it for us, it just really cemented the fact that the star rating, it does serve a purpose, but I wouldn't put my entire decision on it.
Yeah.
I'd go and visit the setting. So I found online, they've got my availability. I've checked the license. I'm going to go and visit it now. What am I looking for? The first thing that we would say would be noise. So the noise, if you came here, you would be very surprised at how quiet it is. And that's always a shock when people come and they say, how many dogs have you got in today? And I'm like, we've got 60 dogs today. They're like, but why can't I hear them? And I'm like, well, because they're not overstimulated, they're not frightened, they're not overexcited, they're not scared.
Not stressed.
Why would
they're
they
just having a good time.
They're not stressed. They're just having a good time. So noise, I don't think people think about very often, because when they go somewhere, they expect it to be noisy because there's dogs. Doesn't
and
have
I think
to be
traditionally,
noisy.
People would always put their dogs in kennels, 20, 30 years ago, and you always just expected to hear noise. It was the norm. So I suppose that is what people expect. And just
in kennels you've got a lot of stressed out dogs, unfortunately, a lot of frustrated dogs, and so you do get the barking, and that's really normal. That shouldn't be normal in daycare and home boarding. If they see you turn up and you're a stranger and they do a bit of barking from that perspective, that's different, but it should settle down. So barking would be a really big factor. I want to know about their kind of staff to dog ratio. If you're in a commercial setting, how many people work there? So I always find it interesting talking to kennels, for example, that might say, oh, every dog gets half an hour or twice a day. And then you start to kind of, how many people work there? 3. And you go, and how many hours are in the day? And it doesn't add up. So, how many staff have they got after the dogs? What's their routine? They don't want to be playing all day. You do not want a dog in daycare that's playing all day. It's so counterproductive. From a mental, physical, you don't want that. They need structure and routine. And where's their sleep coming from? Where's that 18 to 20 hours sleep a day that we're looking for? So, I'd want to know. No, I want to know when they're sleeping. Really important. And where are they sleeping? So if you're looking at a home boarding setting, and they've got a license for 4 dogs, where are they sleeping? Because they shouldn't be together. So if you've got 4 different households, where is one in a bedroom, one in a lounge, that's where are they sleeping? How are they separating them for safety? What's their staff training? So we've got our CPD trackers. All of our team are really invested in their own self-training, and we also invest in it too. So, when you're looking at staffing, and they might say, oh, we've got 10 staff here. Oh, tell me about your staff. So there's an owner, a general manager, and 8 to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Again, I'd rather have 5 really experienced, well-qualified people than 10 kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not just looking after dogs, is it? There's so much more to it. You need to know an awful lot about dogs to be able to give them the best care possible.
How do they induct and assess dogs would be really important as well. So we have a half-day free afternoon that we bring them in at a quiet part of the day, at a day when there's no other visitors, there's no dogs arriving or leaving, so we can set them up for success and give them the best opportunity of having a good time and showing us their whole character, because they're not going to be shut down or they're not going to be overstimulated or frightened. And then if you are talking about things like a setting where they collect your dog, so they come to your house and collect your dog, how long are they in the van for? So we've heard some really scary stories of dogs being in vans for several hours across that day. So I'd want to know, you're picking up my dog at 7 in the morning. What time do they get to daycare, and what time do they leave? And I don't think anyone asks that until they've had a bad experience.
Of course, yeah, because it depends on their rounds, doesn't it, of how many dogs
Yeah.
they're picking up.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
imagine it's easier to have dogs in vans than at the setting. So
Yeah. Well, that's it, because once they get to the setting, that's when your ratios kick in. It doesn't kick in the van. You could have 20 dogs in a van. No one checks that. So
yeah,
the travel to and from the setting would be really important, and how does that journey look, and how do they get them there, and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. And again, it's something that probably people overlook because they just don't think about it. It's a 10-minute
No,
journey from my house, therefore they must be in the van for 10 minutes.
it's not it's absolutely never the case in our
No.
experience. Like we hear the opposite. We'll hear home at 7 o'clock in the morning and they don't get home till 6. Actually, they're only at the setting from 10 till 2. So
Yeah.
where are they the rest of the day? And if you're out at work and you're not getting home till 7, and you think your dog's only been home from 6 o'clock, but actually they've been in a van since 2, when are they going to the toilet? How? So there's a lot of questions to be asked around travel to and from the setting.
Definitely. Definitely.
I
Yeah.
think
So
that's
again, it's something
probably my headline.
you would overlook quite easily.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then I'd
Convenient,
say my
obviously,
really convenient. Yeah, absolutely. And it can be a great service if it's delivered in the right
if it's
way.
done well.
And that has to come down to you asking questions about that.
Yeah.
And then I'd say the main thing over all of that is you need to do this way in advance of your holiday. So if it's a home boarding you're looking for, holiday care, don't wait until, a few months before, because if they are licensed, they'll have to do a face-to-face meet and greet. They'll have to do an overnight trial. And all of that has to happen, and all of that could go wrong. So, be
Mm.
really organized. And the same with puppies. We have people now that contact us literally as the puppy's been born, and they're like, right, puppy's been born, we need to get, and they're here, they're down, they're coming, and that's 3 months before they're getting that dog.
Yeah. But
So be organized.
generally speaking, I mean, this doesn't always ring true, but if something with somewhere's good, they're going to be busy. You're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
have to
right,
get booked
absolutely.
in.
Yeah,
Sometimes, it's not always the case. You could be not very good and still booked up, but the good ones will be booked up. And I think that's again something people overlook. It's the same, I think,
and
in most
especially
industries.
for premium stuff. So if it's a home boarder, you're looking
Mm.
for holiday care, your half term, your summer holidays, they're gone. They're
Yeah,
gone.
of
Even
course.
our home boarders have got bookings into next year already. And these are new. These two have only just started out on their home boarding journey. They're brand new at this, and they're already booking next year. And then you take somewhere like a daycare setting like us. If you're flexible on the day, you'll be okay. But if you have to have a Tuesday and a Thursday, or what, you're going to go on a waiting list. And so, yeah, if you're very specific in what you need, then you have to be really organised.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. But again, it's probably one of those things we just forget about.
Yeah,
And then just go with whoever's free. So
and that's where we see the accidents happen.
yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you think people should look out for? Are they the main areas?
No, I think these are this. I think start at the top, start with the license, then break it down from there. See who's available, go and visit, look, all those things. And I think that then you go with your gut, don't you? You're like, okay, I've done all
Yeah,
of this,
definitely.
and I actually don't like them. Well, don't send them there.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
there's so much, plenty of choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that maybe isn't looked at often enough is sort of the ethical side of things. How do they actually treat dogs?
Yeah,
Because we know in this day and age there are different opinions, different methods that people use,
yeah,
and it's not often known or seen. So discovering how they actually look after dogs, what methods they use with their
yeah,
their training. Obviously, you guys get them to learn how to relax and chill out in a very sort of routine-driven, care-based way. Others may do it slightly differently, as you say, by just in a crate, off you go. You will be quiet. So it's
yeah,
looking at those things as well as how they actually interact with the dogs. I think is equally, once you've ticked all the other boxes, is equally just as
yeah.
important.
Yeah, and as part of your license, you're not allowed to use any aversive training methods anyway. So that is again
Amazing.
another
I didn't know
reason.
that.
It's Yeah, it's actually on your license that you can't, all training methods must be positive reinforcement, and you must not use any aversive methods. So it's really important, again, for your license to know that's going to happen. But you are right, underneath that, it's a case of people can get frustrated, or they don't have enough experience, or they don't have enough staff, that then they are pushed into a corner, and then the dogs are put in crates, or
Of
they're not
course.
settling, or they're just howling in the corner, or they're pacing the fence all day. So and that does come with experience and qualifications, and there's nothing wrong with a brand new business. But if that brand new business has done all of their due diligence and they've learned, and then that's fine. But when I started my business really small at home, with a couple of dogs, and I learned and I built it up. But now what you see is people, they just want this big commercial setting straight away. That's it.
Yeah.
And I find that quite scary, because if you've got a good website, you've got a good brand, and you've got loads of friends on your social media telling everyone you're brilliant, then
Yeah.
that's fine. But you're suddenly very busy very quickly, without the kind of the organic growth and the mistakes that you
Yeah.
can make. And
without
and
it's
unless
better to make a few mistakes with 3 or 4 dogs than
yeah,
with 60.
yes, absolutely, yeah,
Because you
absolutely,
learn
because
from
60
those
dogs
very
turns
small
that.
things. I should have done this better. I could
Yeah,
do try this.
yeah.
It's the time that helps you grow and get better at things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we as part of Hunters, we work and are happy to work with other daycares. We have no issue with competition, and and
Hmm.
bringing people in here, showing them how we do it, and training them how to do it. And I think that's really important um, for the whole industry. But most people aren't going to think about spending the money on that, because it's just dogs in a field, isn't it?
If only.
That's it.
It could be seen that way for sure, but we all
Yeah,
know there's a lot more to it.
yeah, yeah. There really is.
So what would you say is, running a daycare, and obviously, now supporting the dog boarding as well. What would you say is the one thing that people might be surprised? What's the thing that people are most surprised about when you tell them, or, that they work with you? What's the thing that makes them go, "Oh, I didn't know that happened"? Is there
Well, I'd
one thing
say
that you
actually how quiet it is.
that's the thing? Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, even the license inspectors are always astounded by how quiet it is. I'm in the
Which
office
is
now. This is noisy now.
which is
That's as noisy as it
amazing,
gets.
really, isn't it? Because you
Yeah,
always associate dogs having fun. They're going to be barking. They're going to,
yeah, yeah,
effectively, most people think daycare, they're left to their own devices all day. Obviously,
yeah.
they're not.
No,
But yeah, a content dog, a satisfied dog, isn't going to be barking.
no, no. They shouldn't. There's no reason for it at all. It's never a good idea. Barking in daycare is totally unacceptable for us. It's as simple as that.
Amazing. So, do you find that sometimes dogs come to you and that is a struggle and they have to learn that?
Most
What
of the
happens if one doesn't get on with
barking
it?
Most of the barking is a problem for the owners. So we'll find the barking happens on their arrival and on their leaving. So that is an
Okay.
issue. And then it's more than about just keeping them engaged all day. So whether it's sleeping or activities. So that the barking tends to kick in when things are quite heightened. So at home time, there's a bit of whinging, and
Hmm.
then that can kind of escalate to barking when the owner gets there. If there's something that scares them, so somebody decides they're going to look over our 6 foot fence, that's a nightmare.
Which
But
are all fair. They're fair reasons to bark.
and then if there's like a bin lorry reversing and saying this vehicle is reversing, so it's things that frighten them, and
Yeah.
it's our job to kind of be on it, and you can't turn your back. You're always, this many dogs, you're always having to watch them and distract them and keep them engaged. And then the barking episodes happen, but they get shut down and dealt with, and then we move on. So yeah, it's the silence, I think, is the biggest thing.
And I suppose, I mean, it's amazing. It sounds amazing that it is so silent, and it makes quite a change from what people are used to. But I
Yeah,
imagine most people probably assume, well, you just sit and cuddle and play with dogs all day. I imagine, so, I mean, I think I've seen from your socials, you do have work experience come
yeah,
in. I
yeah.
imagine, do they get a little bit of a surprise because they think they're going to be cuddling dogs all day, and actually it's a lot more to it than that?
So we try and really prepare them. So our general manager, Laura, she takes charge of all the work placements, and we get lots of applications. So we want to make sure that the person that we do give the space to, firstly, really, really wants to work with dogs, and it's not just a work placement because they've been told they've got to have it. Then we kind of treat this like an interview. So they have to, if their mums rang up, they then have to ring up, and we talk to them on the phone. Then they come down and meet us. So there's a process they have to go through. So we know they really want it. And then we try and give them a full and balanced work experience. So, we show there's a lot of cleaning, and you know what? The majority of them do really well, but there is the odd one that doesn't come back after the first day. A bit too hard.
I think that's fair, isn't it? You're going to get one every now and again.
Yeah, but most of them, we go through that process. We kind of weed out, I guess, the ones that aren't that committed, and then hopefully by the end of that, they have a great week here and they really enjoy it. And we've met some great young people along the way. Amazing.
I can imagine. Yeah. So what happens when obviously you've had a dog that comes in and they're doing okay in the setting? Obviously, we've said that you assess them regularly. What happens if one of them suddenly starts to not be getting on as well in the setting as they did? How do you have a process sort of to go through with them before you say, look, this isn't working anymore? Or, how long do you persevere with that?
So the first thing for us is transparency with the owner. So if a dog has an off day, we have an app. And so on the app, we can put notes on there so the owners can view their dog's record as well. So, if it's had an off day and it's ended up having a go at another dog and it's really out of character, then we will talk to them about it. If they've been a bit barky, which is out of character, we'll talk to them about it. And often they'll be like, oh, do you know what? Actually, at the weekend, we went to a dog show, we went to a training class, we took them out all day on the Sunday, we had our family around for a barbecue and they didn't sleep all day. Okay, that's fine. You let them sleep all day for the next 3 days. We'll be good. So it's sometimes it can just be that. Other times it's they're coming into season, or it's a hormonal change, or something else, adolescence, that kind of thing. But it's about transparency. And then if things don't settle down, we have a performance improvement plan document that then we'll go through with the owner, agree a plan going forward. We have some really lovely local trainers and a behaviourist who we recommend to. Sometimes they'll leave the setting and work through it, and sometimes they'll come back. Sometimes they won't ever come back. Sometimes they'll stay and manage to work through it. It can be simple things like boundaries at home have just been let go, and so they're just pushing their luck a bit too much, or they've had a bad experience. There's so much. It's about really just talking to the owners and making sure that we are all, I guess, advocating for the dogs. I guess that's a good way of looking at it, and making sure.
And the fact that you've got the support there to say we recommend these people that can help you. It's not just it doesn't work, off you go.
Yeah.
You're working with them to try and get the success back, which is really nice.
Yeah absolutely.
You mentioned,
it's really important.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned dogs in season, so how do you manage that? Do you allow entire males in?
No, they can't come.
Joe, they're not allowed.
No. So we really encourage the owners to keep them to not get them spayed until 2 seasons at least. So the way that we work that is, if somebody brings up dogs come into heat, then it's like, okay, keep them off for 3 weeks. We don't charge them. There's no cancellation charges. It's not part of your holiday allowance. And we want to really support them in doing that as much as possible. So we do 2 seasons without any charges, any cancellation or any holiday allowance. And if they turn up and they're in season, they have to go home.
Fair.
You can't stay here. So although we have no intact adult males, we do have intact puppies that are becoming adolescents, and there's just no way. And in fact, even the males that have been neutered, they still think they've
and the other girl dogs. Let's face it, they're all
the other girls.
Sensitive.
They're all involved.
So
they
at
all
what
want a bit of
point
the action.
At what point do you ask for the male dogs to be castrated? How does that work?
Every dog is different. So we've got a Labrador at the minute that's 12 months old. He just doesn't know what's going on anywhere, really. Just bumbling around in life, quite happy with everything, and hasn't. So he's not at this point. We're still okay. Other dogs, 5 months. And
really?
It's the start. Yeah. So it's not. And often the owners will say to us, well, we're not seeing anything at home. You wouldn't, because you haven't got another 50 odd dogs around them. And the problem isn't your dog. The problem is the other dogs who are getting fed up with his childish behaviour. He's no longer a cute puppy. He's now a pain in the neck teenager. And although we don't encourage early neutering, we would encourage them to remove him from the setting, keep him, particularly our larger breeds, keep them entire for as long as they can, and then reintroduce them. But unfortunately, occasionally the owners are desperate to keep them here, and they will. The smaller breeds, not so much a problem. So if we've got, like a small breed with no behaviour issues, and adolescence is a breeze, fine. But if we've got, a larger breed or a brachycephalic or something that just needs a bit more, growing, but we try and deter them. And actually, quite often, if a dog's got some behaviour stuff going on and they do neuter, we know that doesn't really resolve it, and they end up leaving anyway because the behaviours hasn't really been resolved through that. So we do try and discourage early neutering and early spaying as much as we can through those kind of policies.
Which is really nice. So many people put like a flat, got to be done by 6 months. As again, we've mentioned before, you're very dog centered, and it's about the individual dog and when it's right for them, which is really important.
Yeah, God, yeah. And actually, what we'll find though is that other centres now, in order to kind of keep the client longer, they are taking adolescent intact males. So we'll have a dog that's perfectly fine here, apart from, being an adolescent idiot. But, no, and then he'll leave. We had one recently that left us, went somewhere else, and ended up being kicked out on the first day because he bit somebody because of the whole, adolescent male, all the dogs are piling in, and somebody got involved, tried to sort it out. So now you've got a dog that was perfectly fine, that they should have just kept at home and got a dog walker. He's a big dog as well. They couldn't neuter him, and they just chucked him in another daycare. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. You can't do that. Adolescent males are adolescent males. They need time.
They do. They really do. And longer than most people think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And particularly the big dogs, they really need time. And again, it comes down to choosing the right breed, I think. And it just that's where the main top problem is they just don't make the right choices in the beginning.
Fair. So are there any things that you see emerging sort of in the industry of daycare boarding that are sort of like new trends that maybe you agree with, disagree with, things that are kind of becoming more prevalent in the industry?
I think that the hope for the licensing regulations didn't work. So, the idea that we would love to have seen now would be a lot more licensed settings, and actually the opposite has happened, and it's kind of pushed people underground a bit more. It's brought out these platforms that make it look like people. So although we were hoping that would educate owners and encourage professionals, it's just scared owners. And it's scared professionals, and for some reason owners just like to avoid the situation and pretend it's not happening. I think that there's certainly like this new type of dog owner now, that kind of wants it all. They want their Insta perfect dog, and I think you have to kind of be on board, as a business. Your socials have to be there, you have to be very I guess, I don't know if Insta ready. I'm a bit old to know what that means, but I think, from a social perspective, you have to be really on it, and that has to be across multiple platforms as well. So, there's a lot of Facebook groups where you have to be active in them to make sure that your business is known, and then there's your kind of your Instagram and TikTok where you have to be doing really cool stuff to kind of raise the number of people following you. So I think those things are really important. That 15 years ago, I barely had a camera on my phone. I had an advert in the Bucks Free Press. That's all I did.
If only it was easy now.
That's it, and it's not, and it's just like, so I think that that unfortunately that we'd hoped to have seen more licensed settings, and we're not. And I think that the whole social media thing is a minefield, actually, and that requires a lot of time within your business to kind of get that right.
Absolutely. And equally, it often gives quite a one perspective view on a business. Obviously, you can be amazing on Instagram and TikTok, but actually not be very good at what you're doing. And as we always say, a lot of our social media is not the dogs, because we're busy working with them, not filming what we're doing. And I imagine you're the same. We're busy looking after them. You almost need a whole separate person just to film stuff, to make sure that the dogs and the clients aren't getting neglected because you're busy filming them for social media.
And that's what we have to do. So with Claire's Comfy Canines, every day we have somebody on socials. And so their job for
Nice.
that day, across the day, is to make sure they get the social media done. Because if we don't do it, then everyone wants to know why we haven't done it. And it's,
Yeah,
we'll do a live as well once a week. We'll do a live. And I think that transparency has been really important. So when you go and look actually in a setting, you want to be able to see behind the scenes as much as you
of
can. And
course.
so we have like viewing windows, we do lives, so people can see what's going on. But I mean, with hunters, my social media is terrible because the content's not that exciting, really.
No, yeah.
With business support, it's not exciting.
No cute
Whether
dogs to
our
show. Yeah.
no doctor, whether our members who are there doing the home boarding and they've got all this great enrichment going on, their social media is fantastic. But the actual HQ social media is boring. And it's very hard. And actually, we're really good at what we do. So you're right. Hunters, if you run a pet business and you're not making any money, I can definitely help you do that. Because I'm really good at that. But getting that across to people
Is
is a
tricky.
bit boring. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not, I say it's not cute, fluffy dogs. It's nothing sexy. It's just I do my job.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I don't really
So
like it.
obviously at the
I feel
moment
like I'm
your focus is obviously continuing doing the good work you're doing in the daycare setting and looking at promoting hunters. So where do you see hunters going in the next sort of
so
6 months?
hunters. Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'd say we've just been running a year now, and already the business has had to evolve to reach more people. So initially, the plan was to grow a network of home boarders, which is definitely still, you know, the top goal of the business is to grow this network of home boarders who we've trained and already have two fantastic success stories that both paid off their investments within the first 3 to 6 months, have regular clients, loving what they're doing, great work-life balance, brilliant. But we have also found there's a lot of existing pet businesses who are not able to get that success. They're great with dogs. They've even got their license and they're just sat there not making any money, or they're working really hard and they haven't got a great balance. And so, or they want to start a new service and they don't really know how to go about it or to explore it. So for us, it's kind of trying to tap into more people in general, so either existing pet pros who wouldn't have been a potential client last year but definitely are now, and budding pet pros, so someone that's maybe kids have grown up, they're leaving their career or they want a career change, and that's where we can just go, come here, we'll put our arms around you and we'll do the whole thing and just give them our kind of box ready business solution. And then a bit of education. So the event, obviously, Canine Country Fair in June, which is our first kind of big event, is very much an educational day. So it's about kind of educating owners. We've got some workshops coming up ourselves later on this year as well. So we're kind of getting the sort of micro pet businesses and owners who really want to learn a bit more and getting them spending more time with their dogs as well. So I think growing our membership, getting the event done, and hopefully getting another one planned for next year, and then some
Nice.
workshops and stuff in between.
Oh, it sounds a good
That's where
plan.
it's going. That's the idea.
Excellent. It sounds like you've already made good progress in the last year. So only onwards and up.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, and actually, to be honest, I didn't get out and do as much networking as I should have done because we had a lot going on here. So the kind of whole new business development thing had to go on hold. And now it's very much like the event is very much about getting people aware of hunters. They're running it, and then networking all the time now, talking to as many people as possible. So hopefully that will work.
Amazing. It sounds like it will. And the event sounds amazing. So that's brilliant. So for anyone listening who hasn't heard about it yet, what is your event coming up?
So Canine Country Fair on the 14th of June, we have a 3 arena show, which is all about dogs. So we have a main arena where we've got our dog show, which is run by Claire's Comfy Canines, which is We were saying today, actually, it's not your ordinary dog show because the prizes are insane. So we've got everything from coaching sessions through to pet portraits, pet photo shoots, hampers, gift bags. The rosettes have arrived, so you get a rosette from place 1 to 3, plus amazing best in show rosettes as well. We've got displays going on in the main arena. We've got 15 different trade stands ranging from first aid provider through to gorgeous pick and mix, fur baby bakery, dog trainers. We've got a free photo shoot as well within your ticket price. We've got 2 other arenas doing have a go activities, which obviously you're part of, which we're very excited about as well. So there's lots of options for people to go and actually do stuff with their dogs and have a go at a new activity, which we're really excited about. And then also the first 200 dogs get these gorgeous tote bags, which are full of merchandise and leaflets and everything. And it's at Berkshire College of Agriculture. It's a pre-ticket event only because it's our first one, so we wanted to make sure that we don't, I guess, have too many people there.
Yes, of course.
To make it really a great, experience for both the pet pros and our visitors. We've got amazing caterers, so we've got as well as an artisan gelato, which is also a dog gelato, pizza, barbecue, bar, cakes, coffee. So like it's mega, absolutely mega. So excited.
Sounds brilliant.
And terrifying.
Sounds really good. And obviously, people can find out the information on that on your social media. And I can pop a little link.
On the Hunters website.
Fantastic. So it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you and obviously finding out a little bit more about how to run how you run a successful daycare business, but also how you can help and support others, but also how people can make sure they're looking out for the right things to ensure that they are getting the best daycare or boarding for their dogs. Anything else that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to just leave us with as a parting word, or have we covered everything?
No, I think that I will always go on about looking for a license. It's just always has to be the first place to go. There's no excuse anymore. There's zero excuse. I literally saw someone the other day on a Facebook post looking for last minute holiday care for their dog because the place they had booked didn't have a garden.
Oh, wow.
License without a garden? You can't get a license without a private garden. It's not a thing. And I'm like, 2 boxes. I'm like, yeah, so literally, and don't wait.
Licensing.
I think, don't wait. If you're going on holiday this summer, you're probably already too late. So
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
need to be thinking about, whatever your holiday plans are, you need to be doing it right now. And that includes if you've booked a holiday for next year. Because
and it's probably more likely to book the dog care before you book the holiday to make sure you've got that in place. Because there's holidays, you can go anywhere, can't you?
On my phone, going, right, estate agent there, dog care there. What about travel agents are in dog care? Okay, have you got space for the dogs? Can I book that flight? That's it. You have to do it at exactly the same time. That's it. You have to. You can't mess about.
Absolutely. Because if you can book a different flight, there's plenty of them. Let's face it. There's plenty of locations you can go to. But if you've got a particular place you want to use for your dog care, then you need to get that in place first.
Yeah, and also for daycare, if you're getting a puppy this summer, which is really common, puppies in the summer is really common.
It really is.
You can't decide on the 1st of September when the children go back to school that you need daycare. Not going to happen because it will take 2 to 3 weeks to get that process done anyway, and that's assuming that they have space. So
absolutely,
if you're getting a puppy in the summer, now's the time to go and visit the doggy daycare centre.
Definitely, and get it booked in as soon as puppy's born, and then it's in place. You can relax.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best way to do it.
Fantastic. Well, it's been brilliant speaking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I wish you lots of success with the event and obviously with Hunters continuing to grow. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Dynamic Dog Owner with me, Debbie Potter. See you next time.